Welcome to the show, everybody. Joseph Robert, the fantasy football counselor. We're back here with Tom Santanello, and we're talking bounce back players for fantasy football 2020. But we're going to talk about the reality aspect as well, because these guys were down last year, and are they going to rise this year? What's going on, Tom?
What's going on, Joe? Good afternoon.
I'm excited, man. Back to bounce back players, because these guys are great value in fantasy football drafts. And I think a lot of people will be sleeping on them. They're also fantasy football sleepers, I would say, as well. So we've got a list of players here. You go, I go. Just have an open discussion. I don't really want to script this thing. You kind of like it just football chat. Let's just talk football about these guys.
Sounds good to me.
Do you want to start off with your first player?
Yeah, sure. Let's hop on. Let's hop on the Le'Veon Bell train.
Le'Veon Bell. Oh, man. This guy was a first-round pick in fantasy last year. Then, sure enough, he crapped the bed. Product of the Jets offense, obviously. I mean, best player on the team. What happens this year?
I mean, I have some things that I think were a reason. Number one, the first thing you got to look at, he had a full year off. I don't care who you are, whether it's from injury or just hanging out or hold out, taking a year off. You're not going to come back in full strength. You're going to be rusty. There's that. There's the new offensive line. They have 3 or 4 new starters on that offensive line, including a first-round draft pick, George Fant on the right tackle. I think they got a guard and a center as well. So they have a new line. If they have some chemistry, Le'Veon's going to have the better line. He's going to be in shape finally, because no matter how long you take, even if you're working out with a year off, you're not in football shape. And I think that's very, very important. Like you just said, he's still their best player. Those are the main things. The Jets, people don't understand this. When you really analyze, I know the Jets aren't a great team, but they finished the season 5-2. When Sam Darnold was the quarterback, they were 7-6. This is slowly becoming Joe Douglas's team. Adam Gase, maybe he'll be on his way out soon, but Joe Douglas, he brought in Joe Flacco, who he goes, I don't know if he drafted him in Baltimore, but he was there. He's putting his own culture in there, and he's building a strong blue collar, tough team. And it's only meant for Le'Veon to succeed over there. Now him, getting better play than last year doesn't mean he's going to do what he did in Pittsburgh, but Le'Veon's a great football player. He's the best player they have. He's going to get the opportunities there. And here's a key thing too. If he's not playing well or they're out of contention, he may get traded. If he gets traded, the team who picks him up is going to use the shit out of him and abuse him, because I don't know how much guaranteed money is left probably this year. It was a shorter deal. So keep that in mind. If he gets traded, which is highly possible, and has a bad few games in the beginning of the season, or even if he plays well and they're going to showcase his skills to trade him and they're not doing well, I think whoever trades for him is going to use and abuse him, like many teams do use and abuse running backs.
Right. He can only improve. They added first rounder Mekhi Becton at tackle out of Louisville there. They've added Denzel Mims, who potentially could stretch the field out a little bit, take some pressure off. I'm excited about, Bell a little bit more than I was last year. I mean, he's an average ADP's 4th round. He's not a first rounder. So he's going to be safe and solid, I think, in regards to production, in regards to receiving, in regards to everything there. There's no one else that's going to take that away. They've added Frank Gore, which isn't much of a threat there in regards to taking away production. And I just heard today, Flacco says he's not going to be ready for week 1, but does anybody really care?
No, I mean, that's actually, I think that's a great signing. Look at when Darnold went out last year, they had no backup quarterback. They were on their 3rd string quarterback. They need a backup quarterback. I don't know when he's going to be back, but listen, you need a backup quarterback in this league. So as long as he's ready in a couple weeks. Last year, Sam Darnold went down with, the vicious mono and, missed 4 games or something like that.
Right.
But I mean, they were on their 3rd string. David Fowle. I mean, they just got crushed without Darnold, without a real backup. So I really do think that was a good signing. But that's more of a signing, not for fantasy, not for anything. Come in. Listen, if Flacco comes in and has to play 4 games and he goes 2-2, it's better than going 0-4.
Right.
You're not going to go 4-0, but usually, you at least want to win a game or 2 with your backup or keep you in the ball game. But if Flacco comes in, they're going to just give the ball to Bell 40 times, not 40 times, 30 times. So back to Le'Veon Bell. Le'Veon Bell is a stud. He's still in the prime of his career, I think. He didn't get much abuse last year. I think he's going to come in and get the rock, and I think he's going to come in and produce. New offensive line, new team. I think they're going to do that. I don't think Gore's really going to be a threat. I mean, Gore will want the ball, but whatever that means. But I think Le'Veon, if he gets traded, that'll be even better your fantasy owners.
Well, it depends on where he lands. I mean, he's primed for a lot of volume. He had 245 attempts last year, only 3.2 yards per carry and 3 touchdowns. With Bell, I thought he would have had way more rushing touchdowns last year. I guess they didn't find the red zone enough times. 3 rushing touchdowns, 1 receiving. That definitely has to go up. There's no way but up for Le'Veon Bell. I'm personally not drafting him. I think he's still going to be a solid value for the 3rd or 4th round, which is kind of where he's going. But I'm personally staying away from all things Jets, honestly.
You know what I would love to see? At the trade deadline, James Conner doesn't do well. Pittsburgh takes a shot, takes Bell for another year because he might be a piece in that offense if their receivers click. I can see that because they didn't really leave on horrible terms. I know they didn't agree to a contract, but it wasn't like, the Antonio Brown or other situations that have been there in the past. And I think that's a situation. Listen, it may not even be possible, but I think that would be a great spot for him to go back to. I think Buffalo would have been a great spot for him, but they have a couple running backs, but we can go on about that another day.
All right, I'll give you one of my bounce back players, and this is pretty obvious. I keep talking about him, but David Johnson, man, I'm excited. I don't think you're as excited as I am, but I'll tell you, I'm super pumped about David Johnson. Last year, obviously got screwed by Kingsbury, and now going on and ending up on the Texans, where he's going to be a primary target. You heard some inside info, we won't say who, that he's going to be a focal point of that offense, including catching the ball in the backfield quite often. And what's really appealing and what I really like is Carlos Hyde sucks. And last year he had 245 attempts, 1,070 yards, 4.4 yards per carry, and 6 touchdowns out of Carlos Hyde. Now, David Johnson, they've invested a lot to get him. He's got to eat and he's angry. That's a big part of it. He's angry. So I'm expecting a major bounce back. And I want to note, guys, we're talking about bounce back players, guys that were on the field last year that are just going to have a higher ceiling this year. We're not really talking about injury-prone players, not injury-prone, but guys that were injured last year, guys like, Matt Stafford, obviously he's going to bounce back. Guys like Big Ben, obviously they're going to bounce back. We're talking about guys that had a mediocre year last year that were technically on the field or supposed to be on the field, non-injury related and bouncing back. So David Johnson, really curious to hear your thoughts.
Yeah, we're also not talking about second-year players because that wouldn't be fair. Those guys had the rookie curve, which we're going to do that in another episode, the sophomore risers, I think, just to keep that, fact-checking in there. But let me tell you something. David Johnson's going to get the opportunity. They're going to want to use him. I think he's going to have a good year. And I'm not surprised when you say it, and I'm not excited because you've said it 50,000 times.
Right.
It was something that, yeah, I know. And listen, I agree with you. I don't know where, you're drafting him in your fantasy league, but I do think he's going to produce. I think he's going to put up numbers. I think the Texans, listen, obviously everyone wants to win the Super Bowl, but the Texans, they're in it to win it. They traded, half their draft this year. They overpaid Laramie Tunsil. They're going to pay Deshaun Watson. The owner's happy with Bill O'Brien because they winning the division. They're in the playoffs. I know that. I know that for a fact. I think David Johnson will have a good year this year. I really do. I think they're going to want to take some of the pressure off Watson, especially if they pay him. I don't know if they'll pay him before their season or not, but he's going to get about $40 million a year. And I agree. David Johnson's going to get the ball in the backfield. David Johnson's going to get the ball going to get the ball. He's just going to get the ball. So they traded for him for a reason. And, Carlos Hyde had 1,000 yards last year, like you just said, 1,000 plus. And Carlos Hyde is okay. Got the job done. Nothing exciting. He actually turned down an offer to go back there. But David Johnson should put up, maybe 1,200 yards, maybe 10 TDs. Would that be fair?
I think so. He's going to catch a lot of balls, and I think he's just going to be a big focal point of that offense. I'm just excited to watch him get that volume, and that's one of the things that I like is that 4th round average draft position from a fantasy football perspective. You're basically getting a workhorse running back for pretty much free because guys like him, based on the volume he's supposed to get and the talent, that should be a 1st round pick easily. I'd love him over Nick Chubb, and Nick Chubb's coming off in the 1st round with Kareem Hunt there. Kareem Hunt's going to eat. There's no denying it. Unless the only way Nick Chubb finishes, top 5, top 10 is where he's kind of being ranked right now, is if Kareem Hunt sits on the bench. I don't want to spend too much time on this, but do you think Kareem Hunt sits on the bench?
I don't know what they're going to do there with the new coach, but listen, if you got a guy that's heading I think Nick Chubb's a better running back. Most people in football, he's a better pure runner. I don't know what they're going to try to run there. I don't know. We haven't seen him be a head coach yet. So it's hard to say, but I told you, listen, I'm not talking first round, second round, third round. I'm just talking legitimately. Nick Chubb, I think, is going to have another good year there. I don't think there's enough carries to give Kareem Hunt. He's definitely going to be the backup. I think he's the backup, and he's going to get some more passes than Chubb. That's what I think he's going to be. Maybe if they're trailing in games and he's going to be out there on passing downs, third and longs, those kind of situations, the third down back too. But I think he's going to be more in that situation. Stefanski was in Minnesota, used Dalvin Cook a lot. He's a young head coach. No one's really succeeded in Cleveland, so who knows what's going to happen. They were a really poorly run organization last year all the way around. They have a new GM. They have a new coach. Last year, it was horrible on offense. I just think you're going to see a little different identity. I don't know what they're going to do. You just don't know until you see a new coach in there and you see what he does. But it's going to be an interesting situation to watch because they definitely have talent.
Right.
I don't know if they have the cohesiveness and can build the chemistry there to put a winner on the field. Remains to be seen, but they have good players.
Should be interesting. And let's move on to your next bounce back players. We talked about Le'Veon Bell. We talked about David Johnson. Let's move on to another bounce back player you've got.
Let's stay with the Texans. Brandin Cooks.
I like him.
Really bad year last year. Very bad for his standards. Just mediocre overall. He's on a new team. He's the number one option. DeAndre Hopkins and 150 targets and 1,160 something yards out the window. Their other options do not excite me. I hate to go this way in a little reverse engineering. Right. Will Fuller, 500-600 yards a year, injury prone. Randall Cobb's had 1,000 yard season in his career. He's on the back nine. Shit, he's probably on 17 or 18. Right. Kenny Stills is he's like a smaller version of Will Fuller. Was that guy who would go deep in Miami and really do much last year. So they don't really have that guy. He's going to be the man for Watson. He's already working out with him for whatever that means. He's got good work ethic. He's a good kid, good character. He's not as good as Hopkins, but he's the obvious replacement. And I think that's important. He's usually a consistent 1,000-yard receiver. I can see him easily putting up, 1,000 to 1,300 yards somewhere in the air. He had those injury history with the concussions last year. That's his only negative. Other than that, he's probably going to double the stats he had last year.
I love him. I love the upside. I love the value. I mean, this guy's off everybody's radar. You're basically getting a wide receiver one after the 6th round, which is amazing, right? And the thing about it is, like you said, 150 targets freed up. Somebody's got to eat those, right? Somebody's got to get that volume, right? So is it going to be David Johnson? Yeah, a little bit there, a little bit to Fuller, but I've always found Fuller to be kind of a one-trick pony, deep threat, boomer, busty kind of guy. I don't see him as an all-purpose catch the ball a lot, PPR point perception machine. So yeah, I mean, Cooks has got to step up there. I mean, I don't know what to tell you. I think he's going to get the volume. I think David Johnson's going to be enough of a threat there in the backfield to create some distractions, open things up for Cooks. I think it's going to be great. I think this offense is going to be better than what people think. A lot of people coming at O'Brien saying, he sucks and that bad decision. I think he's made the right moves, man. He put the right pieces in place. Cobb, the veteran in there, not that exciting, but maybe in the slot could get some work done, enough to distract the defenses, maybe catch some passes. But I'm super excited about the value of Cooks. As long as he stays healthy, the concussion doesn't play an issue, we're good.
Well, look at the other side, too. DeAndre wanted a new contract. Him and DeAndre did not get along, no matter even if they go against it in the media. It's true. So he took away, somebody that didn't fit with somebody with a little lesser talent that can be more part of the family, and that's what he is. He came from Belichick, I believe. He's not him. He hasn't really won, but he's won the division. And like I just said, these are two Texans we just talked about. They're in it to win it. They don't really have a choice. They're paying people. Their caps are going to be done. They're about to pay Deshaun $40 million. They're in it to win it. Cooks is not on a great deal, but he's on a manageable deal if he performs as a one wide receiver.
Yeah. All right. I'll move on to my next guy here. Sticking to wide receiver. Yeah. Now, a lot of people are saying, no, Joey's washed up. Why would you even waste your time with a guy like this guy? But T.Y. Hilton, because they're saying him and Rivers are washed up because they're old, this and that. Another team that I think is in it to win it. They went and got Jonathan Taylor, Michael Pittman, some nice rookies in there. They've got Hilton. They've got Rivers. Rivers are saying he might be more than a year. They might keep him for more than a year if he performs well. Rivers, I think, a guy that's got a monkey on his back, chip on his shoulder, whatever you want to call it. he's kind of been that underrated quarterback that just never got the credit that he deserves, right? He's like the Rodney Dangerfield, or he never gets any respect. Okay. So T.Y. Hilton coming in this year, last year had a terrible year, only played 10 games. What do you have? Like 68 targets, 45 receptions, 5 touchdowns. But Jacoby Brissett just wasn't that good, and clearly he's gone, right? So Phillip Rivers, who's made Keenan Allen a phenomenal receiver in fantasy in the past when Keenan Allen has been healthy, I think this is going to be an exciting thing for T.Y. Hilton this year. I think if he gets the targets, he gets the volume, he could put up some serious numbers. And back to the Andrew Luck, T.Y. Hilton kind of days where he was kind of thriving there. He's finally got a good quarterback. I think it's definitely a bounce back. 100% going to bounce back last year. He finished, like 57th in PPR amongst wide receivers. So obviously because of 10 games, but definitely a bounce back and great fantasy football value, Tom. You're getting this guy in the 5th round, and then you can get Michael Pittman later for like pretty much for free. And you've basically got the wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 with Phillip Rivers. That's pretty good value, Tom.
Yeah, let me rewind. The Indianapolis Colts, you said they're in it to win it, which is true, but also they're also built to win. Now, the big problem with them is the Andrew Luck fiasco of a year ago. That now they're a quarterback away, but also I believe, put T.Y. to the side for a second, count on him being healthy. I think there's still a big play or a weapon away, not a Jonathan Taylor. I'm talking like a dynamic playmaker to stretch the field. The Kelvin Benjamin experiment didn't really work out. So I think they still need a little more electricity on offense, someone to blow by. Like, Michael Pittman could be that guy. He's not so much a big play guy. I think he's a guy that can replace T.Y. in a couple years for sure. But I still think they need a little speed or something. Like, it would have been nice to get like a Henry Ruggs, somebody like that can bring some big play potential to that team. But with that said, T.Y. Hilton stays healthy. He's going to be the man over there. Rivers is going to throw the ball. I don't know how much Rivers has left in the tank. Rivers has never won. He's been on some good teams. Last year, they did not look good. They they just wouldn't score. Most of their games, like, they didn't put up. If you look at the Vegas odds, they were under they were under a lot. Their offense was not good. So I'd like to see how Rivers performs in that offense. I think they're going to use him to his strengths. I don't know what he has left. That, I think, is going to be the key to T.Y. Hilton. But I do agree he's healthy. He's a number 1 wide receiver. He's going to put up, 1,000 yards, 1,200 yards.
Right. If he's healthy, that's a big question. All right, let's move on to another one of your bounce back players.
Juju Smith of the Steelers.
Good one.
I think, obviously he's more going to put up more stats just because Big Ben is back. I don't think he is what they thought he was. I don't think he's a true number 1. They can beat a lot of double teams. I think number 1, him and Ben have a rapport. Since he was a rookie, he was making plays there. He's going to be in Ben's comfort zone. He's going to be the number 1 target. Now he finally has some young wide receivers with some experience that can help stretch the field. And I think that's important. They have that rookie Claypool, doesn't have the experience, but he's tall. He's got some speed. They just need to get him in some one-on-one situations, and he's going to be, by default, he's going to get the ball. He's going to get a lot of targets. They also have 2 tight ends. If that works out with McDonald and Ebron this year, they'll take the pressure off him. And the Steelers just want some weapons on that offense. Juju's their man. He's going into a contract year. Steelers like to re-sign their own players. They did not re-sign him yet. And I think he had a really bad year last year. I don't know if he's asking for more money. I don't know if negotiations have begun. But keep that in mind. They always extend their own guys. They like to do it early so they get a discount as well. They got James Conner there. They're going to throw the ball. They're going to run a little bit. But I think Ben's coming back to throw the ball. He's not coming back to hand it off. And like I said, I think they want to keep him there long term, and I think he loves that city. He wants to stay there long term. I'm looking for him to bounce back, put up a really good season from what he did last year. Big disappointment. It wasn't a disappointment for me because I didn't think he would do good last year, but I think this is the year he comes out and plays, kind of like a bottom level 1, high level wide receiver 2 in the real world. I don't know what that waits through in your world, but that's what I think he's going to end up being because he's a good.
For Juju, there's no way but up. As long as Big Ben's there, he's obviously going to do better than he did last year. There's no question about it. But the guy I'm excited about is Deontay Johnson. I just read in the news a couple hours ago. Deontay Johnson says he's working it with his timing and building a bond with Ben Roethlisberger. Said he may go work it with Ben next week. So that's kind of exciting, man. If they're building a bond together, you never know. He could be the guy.
Yeah, he used to do that every year, bring his receivers down. I don't know if it was to a lake house in Georgia or somewhere, and bring him down and they work out every year. He used to do that. Ben's, but listen, Ben's going to come and be in shape. He's another one that's aging too, though. I mean, I don't know how much he has left in the tank. It's weird as players get older these days, technology's improved, the health and fitness, the medical's improved. Guys come back from injury a lot quicker. Besides the injury, that's another thing to look at, his arm strength from the injury and stuff like that. But it's also look at just as guys age. Guys are playing longer. Right. Brady's in his 40s. Rivers is getting older. Roethlisberger's getting older. Eli Manning retired last year. Came in when Roethlisberger did, and Rivers, I think. So Drew Brees came in a year before them. He's still putting up. He had an injury last year too. So as you get older, you're more apt to get hurt and not play at the higher level. So I think he has to take care of his body. He's still got a decent line in there. But I like Juju to come back and be the one for the Steelers and be a solid fantasy threat.
Yeah. Juju, I'm going to stay away from. His ADP is too high, especially with the risk, and I can get Deontay and Claypool later. I'm going to go with those guys. Let's move on to my other guy here I want to talk about. My last guy for a bounce back. We got to talk about him, and I'm just kind of I'm giddy about this guy. I'm excited because the opportunity is there and another team that's in it to win it. We're focused on guys that are in it to win it all in. This is the year. Talking about older quarterbacks, Matt Ryan, the Falcons, but the bounce back here is obviously Matt Ryan, but that's not the guy I was meant to talk about. He's also going to bounce back as well. But Todd Gurley is the guy I'm talking about here. I'm super excited about this guy. Last year finished 14th amongst running backs in PPR, 223 attempts. I felt he was preserved till near mid to end of the season when they started integrating him a lot more. 12 touchdowns on the ground, only 3.8 yards per carry, under 1,000 yards with 857. Todd Gurley just excites me because, again, the Falcons did not acquire another running back. They're all in on Gurley. This is our guy, period. That's it. They've got Quadri Allison and Brian Hill or someone like that, a bunch of bottom feeders. Gurley's the guy, man. I'm telling you.
Yeah, the problem is obviously if he still has what he was a couple years ago, and he didn't show that last year. Listen, you got three ways to look at it. If he's still hurt, can't play, then they need another running back. If he's healthy, you got to look at it two ways. Is he what he was, and does he have explosiveness, or has he lost a couple steps? So that's what you're going to have to look at. And he didn't look well last year. I think he's coming in rejuvenated, but even if he's coming in rejuvenated, he still has to have that explosiveness. He still has to have that, that brought him that excitement in the Rams. He can break any play. I mean, he's the prototypical running back. He's got the size, he's got the speed. I mean, he's just legit the way he played. He's always battled injuries since he was at Georgia. We know that since he was a freshman. He had a great year at Georgia, then he got hurt, had another great year, got hurt that year. It just kept, it's like just keeps happening. It's like a broken record. So I think he really needs to perform. I believe in him. I love the guy, and I think if he plays, I don't think he's gonna put up no 1700 yard year like he's capable of with his talent. For sure he is. He's probably the number one talent wise if he's healthy, top one or two with Saquon, one of those kind of running backs talent wise in the NFL. And there's no way you can debate that. He's at the top. But does he have what he had a couple years ago? If he doesn't, he's still good enough to get 1,000 yards or 1,100 yards in that offense, which will be fine because they're going to throw the ball.
Right. Ridley, Julio.
I like Ridley. Yeah.
How about Hurst? He could be special there, right? Is he special talent, Hayden Hurst, or is he just going to be an average?
I think he's a good talent. I don't think he's special.
I
don't think he's special, but he's good. But like I said, listen, Todd Gurley a few years ago, they paid him a lot of money early on. They didn't have to pay him. They thought they were going to get a few years of greatness, and he was like that guy that could have been, the best running back for the next 3-4 years. I'm talking like better than, Saquon didn't even have a good rushing year last year. He would have 1,000 yards, but I'm talking somebody that's ultra talented because that's what he was. Can he be that ultra talented guy? Even if he's not and he's healthy, he's still going to put up numbers, I believe.
Right. He's going to get all the work there, rushing around the end zone there, all the rushing touchdowns. And I'd like to see a 2017 Gurley again, but he is due. Let's put it that way. He is due. And I think he's definitely going to finish ahead of the 14th amongst running backs this year. Because, again, I just felt the Rams preserved him the first half of the season. They just didn't push him. So, these guys will. The Falcons will. They want to win. Ryan wants to win. They had a terrible season last year. Matt Ryan was so disappointed because I watched him. I owned Matt Ryan in a bunch of leagues, and big letdown, man, completely. So look for him and Gurley to bounce back this season. All right, you got one more, right?
No, 3-3. But I think there's one thing you got to watch out for with the Falcons. If they're a bad team again and they fall behind a lot, that's going to take the running game out of it, which does on a lot of teams. So it took Le'Veon a lot of the game sometimes last year. So
Right.
I think that, I mean, listen, there's a couple other guys that are in that range. Adam Thielen, Kamara for the Saints. I don't know. Those guys were next up on my list, and I'm not. Thielen, I think, can bounce back. He's not going to have a stud on the side of him unless was it Jordan Jefferson performs at that level as a rookie.
Justin Jefferson.
Justin, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not. And I mean, as far as Kamara, I don't know. He's a 1-2 punch kind of guy. He said he was hurt last year. He's a guy I'd keep an eye on, but I don't know if he is capable of being that guy that can be, 25 rushes a game and handle the number one load. I don't know if he can handle that. Last year, I wasn't too excited about him, but if he hits that level, he was supposed to get extended too.
Right.
He wanted mega money. So if he but why don't they extend these people? Juju, him, the team sees something, or the play. Then you got to look at the other side. The players want a lot. They want a lot of money.
Right.
So the teams don't think they're worth it. I don't know I'm not privy to the negotiations with those two players, but you can definitely see that being an issue.
Yeah, Cook needs to get paid. Fournette needs to get paid. Alvin Kamara needs to get paid. There's a ton of guys that still need to get this big deal going, or some sort of deal going, right?
Yeah, I mean, who's the first guy you said? Cook?
Dalvin Cook. Yeah, he's still waiting.
I mean, you said need to get paid, but running backs don't, like, these teams don't want to pay them. Derrick Henry didn't get paid. He got a franchise tag.
That's crazy.
And he was a monster. But why are you going to do that when you see the trend that I told you about last week? The Ravens took Dobbins, the Colts took Taylor. I mean,
Right.
the Lions took Swift. They're replacing guys with guys in the draft that are going to play for $500,000, $700,000 a year. So I don't think, like, the history goes to show you, besides number one, running backs usually over the age of 30 don't perform at a high level. I mean, Frank Gore's performing, but I don't want to call it a high level. But he's the exception, 1 in 100. LaShawn McCoy's not performing.
Peterson's not performing.
No, he's not. But then again, you got to look at how many running back second contracts. I'm talking guys making over $5 million a year that have really been worth it. I mean, you just got to look.
But there's only a handful of running backs you want to sign: CMC, Zeke, Saquon Barkley, Henry, which I'm surprised he didn't get signed. Other than that, everyone's replaceable, because I really genuinely feel like Madison could do the same thing Cook did in that offense. You've got Taylor, who's better than Mac, potentially. You've got Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's easily better than the other guys there. Darrell Williams, Damian Williams, whatever the hell their names are. Way better. So yeah, these guys are easily. Dobbins, Swift is much better than Kerryon. You'll never end up paying Kerryon. What a good strategy. Just nail one of these guys early, some of these studs, and replace your mediocre running backs. Don't ever pay the mediocre guys, or the guys that get hurt like Dalvin Cook. Just never pay them. It's simple.
Look at New Orleans. It was funny. 4 or 5 years ago, they gave Mark Ingram 4 years, $16 million. He got paid, but he didn't really he played out the whole contract, but that's what he was, $4 million a year. He's not like $8 or $9 million guy. They took a guy this year late. No, they undrafted a guy, Tony Jones, Notre Dame. People are saying he's supposed to look good over there, an undrafted guy, but they want a power back to complement Kamara. And who did they have last year? Latavius Murray?
Yeah, he's still there.
He's still there, and he's got some potential over there to that 1-2 punch, but they need somebody like that. And a team like that, when you go to Kamara, I mean, what is Kamara worth? Then you start to see the injury history. You see that with Dalvin Cook. You see that with Kamara. You see that with Juju's. I don't know if he's ever played a full season. You start to see injury history. How often do you want to pay a player who gets hurt? What if a Darius Geis comes and balls out this year? Would you pay him? And he's got talent.
No, that's why they got Gibson, and who else they got? They got Bryce Love on there. They got a ton of guys.
But my point is, with the injuries, like, would you pay a guy you can't count on? Whether Kareem Hunt, you can't. I mean, the guy's been in trouble. Has he played what, 1 full season?
I think he did 2017, right?
You can't count on a guy, and he doesn't play 16 games, 15 games a year. What's the point of having him on your team unless it's number one, insurance, or number two, a gamble? But you can't take a gamble and put that guy as the number one guy and not have another option that's equal. You just can't. Right. I mean, these guys want to win. Dalvin Cook, they got insurance last year with a 3rd-round pick, Madison. But you put him on the ball this year. If Cook comes out and he has a good year, then you keep him for another couple of years. And it's like a cycle, the running back cycle. Ezekiel Elliott was worth the money,
Yeah.
The but you also got to look the way you structure a contract. You want to get an out in 2 to 3 years. I think Le'Veon, they can get an out on him this year. You want to get an out in the next couple years on a contract. Really, 2 years would be a dream. The guaranteed money runs out in 2 years. And though it's funny, the way Pittsburgh structures their deals usually, they I think do all the guarantees in the first year on the signing bonus.
Okay.
The Raiders don't give a signing bonus. They give you money on the basis guaranteed. So like, look what happened with Antonio Brown. He didn't earn that money. They don't give signing bonuses. Maybe to a quarterback they will. That's always the exception for a lot of teams. Just like in Pittsburgh, they will not extend any players with more than 1 year left unless you're a quarterback. They'll do 2, and they did that with Ben. But you see, there's trends that teams do their contracts with too that a lot of people don't know. And some teams just will not do it. They just have a hard policy on that. So I don't know. I mean, the running back market is just weird. Like Saquon Barkley, I think is a stud. And I think he's going to have, he seems to me that next guy that's going to be that Zeke, that guy that can just perform. Zeke's a running back. I mean, he's a stud. He's a beast. I think he's just a great running back. He's going to put up those numbers every year.
And he's durable. That's huge. Yeah. Durability's him and Christian McCaffrey have been pretty solid. They've been almost bulletproof. So
and hopefully he matured over the last year or two. Remember, he had those issues in the beginning, kid. But he's a stud. But see, like you look at him, you look at Saquon. I'm just talking talent-wise. A healthy Gurley, they're on a different level than a Dalvin Cook. They're just on a different level. It's not a comparison. Derrick Henry, he's had some. I mean, last year was a year, but what has he done the few years before that? He's had some good seasons, but he hasn't had that.
He never had the opportunity. He never really got those attempts. He never really got the rushes. No one believed in him. It was everything. Even the quarterback sucked. Mariota wasn't helping the case either.
But Tannehill's no prize.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't like Tannehill. You love the guy. I mean,
only this year as a backup. I hated him in Miami, to be honest, just on record. I didn't like him at all.
You know, I don't like the guy. I just don't. I don't think he's listen. Can you win a Super Bowl with Ryan Tannehill? No. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl. Joe Flacco won a Super Bowl in his prime in won a great Super Bowl against the Niners.
He had a defense. He had a defense, though. A really good defense.
But he made the throws. He made those key throws at the key times.
Right.
Another thing that I think sucks is I love A.J. Brown. I think he's a stud. But I think he'll show as a stud under Tannehill. I love A.J. Brown. I think I mean, the catches he made last year, he's just unbelievable. I think he's going to take a big step forward.
Right.
But how much of a step forward can you take with Tannehill as your quarterback? Tannehill's also battled some injuries over the years. So I don't know what he's going to do in Tennessee next year. I mean, don't forget Mariota took him to the playoffs once or twice, I believe, in Tennessee. I think they even beat the Chiefs the year before.
They did.
So, I mean, but they were 9-7 last year. People don't look at that. Like, the Jets were 7-9. There's a 2-game difference. The Steelers were 9-7 with Mason Rudolph and what's that guy's name? The Duck. Delvin. Yeah. 9-7 is 1 game. Usually you're not in the playoffs at 9-7, but 9-7 is 1 game away from being 8-8 and definitely not in the playoffs. Now there's random years you can win a division at 9-7, obviously, but I think the NFC East was horrible last year. But it's just a different. I don't know. I just look at a 9-7 team and they're closer to 8-8 than 10-6. You know. That's the way I look at it. You're 7-9 to 9-7. You're all grouped in the same thing because any 1 or 2 of those games can go, either any other way. So, I mean, that's the way you really have to look at a football team. But then there's some 7-9 teams that are closer to 5-11. I mean, if you really want to dive into the rosters, which I'm not doing now.
All right. We get this. Devlin Hodges equals Ryan Tannehill. We get it. We understand.
Listen, Tennessee is great coaching. I love the coach. They're a tough football team. I don't know if you can win a Super Bowl with a tough, hard-nosed football team that counts on the run. They can't play from behind. And I told you that before, just like the Ravens. Ravens had horrible receiving last year. They cannot play from behind. If you can't play from behind, it's so hard to win a Super Bowl.
Right.
I mean, if you need to play from behind, you need to be able to do those things in order to succeed in this league at the highest level. It's a difference between being a playoff team and being a Super Bowl team.
All right. Well, thank you for ranting and raving near the end there. I like that. I like the passion, enthusiasm. I just want some football, man. And yeah, I agree, man. You've got to be special talent. There's those teams that scrape by, make the playoffs barely, and they just had this crappy record. They just squeaked in there. And I think the Titans are one of those teams. So yeah, man, I'm excited. I'm excited about the season. Those are our bounce backs. Let's do sophomore step ups next week.
Yeah, don't forget we got a 7th playoff team next year or this year. Which is going to make it more exciting. I mean, I don't know. Now they're doing some 4th and 15 you can do instead of kick the ball. Well, they're voting on it, I should say, tomorrow.
Okay.
A new rule. So that way, if you're whatever, you don't have to kick off. You can go 1 down, untimed 4th and 15.
Okay. Yeah. I don't care, man. I don't care if they have 5th and 15. I just want to see some football. I don't care what the rules are at this point. I just need some football in my life.
I hear you.
All right, Tom, thanks for being here, man. Fire and Ice with Tom Santanello. And we'll see you guys next Wednesday. And we're going to talk about sophomore step-ups, the Montgomerys of the world. Will they step up? The A.J. Browns, the Deebo Samuels. We've got it all for you. Thanks for being here, Tom. We're out.